Hello and welcome to another episode of So Fly. It's the end of July. We're recording on location today. Actually back at Temagami Outfitting Co. in the town of Temagami. My name is Mitch, and we've got Yilma on the show. Yilma, how's it going?
Hey, folks.
Today is another episode in a series of episodes that we've been doing to raise kind of awareness around our waters in Ontario and beyond, and just talk about our need to protect them and understand our impact on them. I think from climate change to increased recreation pressure to single-use plastics, we're understanding just how much we impact our environment. And we're doing what we can, the SoFly crew, to sort of stimulate conversation and shine some light on the topic. Our guest today really doesn't need much of an introduction. He's been dedicating his life to understanding our relationship with nature and sometimes surviving within it. Stroud is a paddling outdoors survival legend known around the world. He's inspired so many of us to not take our nature for granted. And he's also a musician. He's playing a show tonight, actually, here in the town of Temagami, July 19th. Les, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Yeah,
it's really, really awesome to have you on the show.
I'm in my old stomping grounds, so I cannot tell you how many times I've been in this building. So yeah.
Oh yeah, no way.
Yeah,
because this building goes way back. Eh?
Well, and it changes around a lot. This and Temagami itself has it's a morphing thing as far as how Temagami looks. When I lived here, there were 850 people living here. I understand now that's down to less than 500, but yeah, it changes. Life changes.
Right? Yeah. So you've been writing and playing music for years now, but you're playing a show tonight, and you've been touring a lot more recently, eh? I guess what's that been like? What's the touring process been like, and the songwriting and playing music more frequently been like?
Well, actually, what I have is a project that I've been working on for 10 years. I'll back up a bit. Through the course of doing Survivor Man and Beyond Survival and Survivor Man Bigfoot and filming, Shark Week and things like that.
Yeah.
Through the course of that, I kept writing music. I kept recording music. I put out albums that were very much in the roots acoustic kind of vein, a little bit of roots rock. But there's always the side of me that is the rock sensibility. Mm-hmm. More ambitious, headier studio production, that kind of thing. Yeah. So over the years, I've been working on one single album called Mother Earth. And the album itself is dedicated to celebrating the earth. It's dedicated to the concept of getting people back outside to get to know the earth and the wilderness, to become in love with it, to then, seek to, get to know it, fall in love with it, and then seek to protect it. I always think that four-way strand is how things play out, but you got to get them out there first.
Yeah.
So the album, rather than be one environmental song, like say a Dave Matthews or a Jack Johnson or a Joni Mitchell might have done or will do, the whole album's dedicated to this. In fact, I actually have a trilogy of albums dedicated to celebrating the earth. Yeah. And protecting the earth. But the Mother Earth version is the big ambitious one that's taken me a long time to produce. Mm-hmm. And so this big preamble is all leading towards the fact that I'm releasing the first single starting August 16th of 2019. And then I'll release another 2 singles a month apart, and then the full album by November. So this is finally 10 years of work is finally coming out. So I'm busy and I'm thrilled.
That's amazing, man. 10 years going into that project. What have you found has been like? I mean, I think it's probably an obvious question, but have you found nature to be an inspiration to the story, and how have you found what you do outside of music to inspire the album?
Well, yeah, absolutely is the short answer. Yeah. It's in many ways the answer is how can it not? Yeah. If you're a writer of any sorts or a creator of any sorts, and you like to put out those creative balls of energy. Mine happens to be in, say, writing a book, or certainly in songwriting. And you're a nature nut. Sure, we can write about. I always like to say, I'm over 50. You don't want to hear my love songs. Mm-hmm. Facetiously, but I do love to let nature inspire me and inform all of the music that I write, and the fact that I took it to task to actually then focus on that. Mm-hmm. Singular lyrical subject matter. It was great. It gave me focus, mm-hmm. which I otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, I guess talking about nature and how it's inspired you, we talked, just briefly about how you've been in this building before. Temagami's obviously had a giant impact on your life. How and when did you first start coming to Temagami? Where does the Temagami story begin for you?
Temagami kicks it all off for me. It really, really does. Temagami is where I changed as a human being. Found myself as it were. I was in my mid-20s and I was producing Much Music for Much Music, Much Music Canada. Yeah. Much Music was Canada's answer to MTV.
Right.
And Much Music started in '84, owned by Moses Namer, part of the City TV conglomerate. I don't know if it's since been purchased or who owns it now. Probably it's been sold. But it was, this was our 24-hour music channel, video.
Yeah,
and it was the golden age, right?
Don't tell me you were dancing on Electric Circus.
No, I'm not that old. I don't go back that far. And it was, it was cool, but it was also kind of a cheesy age. No, not a kind of a cheesy. It was a very, all those classic cheesy videos that you remember from the mid '80s.
Yeah.
Well, I was putting them on air. Like I was actually deciding. I can digress for a second and say that was a weird place to be at because in any day of the week, I was an associate producer. I decided what Canada watched.
Yeah.
Me, alone.
Yeah.
Now, sure, I had my 12 spaces that I had to fill with what we called high rotation. So in goes Springsteen, in goes Money for Nothing, in goes the, can I swear a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
In goes the goddamn Thompson twins, and we had to, but other than the high rotation, it was 25 empty places on the sheet of paper that Les Stroud decided what went in. It was very cool.
That's power, man.
It was a real power.
Yeah,
and
that's trust.
And I used to do, and back then we were seeing, 100 to 200, maybe 100 new videos per week, maybe even less than that. Now they have I was told last time, it's a couple of thousand, or at least for a while there when it was big, they'd get a couple of thousand videos they had to see per week to decide what goes on air. So different era completely. So anyway, there I was producing Much Music. I was also very much trying to be a rock star. I wanted to be Neil Young. I wanted to be Led Zeppelin. I wanted to, be Peter Gabriel. I wanted to be this dude writing tunes and performing and all. But without going too deep into the personal side of it, the reality was I did not have the personal mentorship to know how to do that properly. There really, singularly, was never anybody in my life that ever gave me advice, ever. Not my mother, not my father, not an uncle, not a teacher, nobody. So when I was sitting there and BMG Music is saying, we love your material, because maybe I sent them in a cassette tape, and we'd like to shop it down to Bruce Springsteen, instead of giving them 25 new songs, I went and played hockey. No self-discipline, no mentorship, no knowledge of what I should have been doing. So I kind of blew that. That's the only thing in my life I've ever said that, I blew that. I failed at that. I've done 150 initiatives that have never worked out, but I didn't fail at them. They were tries, and for whatever reason, they didn't happen. But this one, I failed at because I could have, and I didn't. So I became disillusioned with the music industry. But I also became disillusioned. People hate me for this part. I became disillusioned because of the music that was being produced in the mid-'80s. I mean, I freaking hated Thompson Twins and Spandau Ballet and Depeche Mode and Pet Shop. But sorry, everybody who loved the 80s.
I couldn't actually agree with you more.
I
can't stand that decade too. Like those main top, the mainstream music coming
Cyndi
out of that
Lauper,
period.
yeah.
Oh, man.
It was all, and then the synth drive. I mean, there were, bands like Duran Duran were making it and they'd never even seen a stage.
Right.
And I love performance. I always grew up loving performance.
Yeah.
So when I'm seeing people become megastars who've never even performed live, I was disgusted,
Yeah.
And even the guys who I really enjoyed and loved, like the Peter Gabriels and the Phil Collins, had got a bit soft in the mid-'80s, They Peter's always been kind of cool, but and the Kate Bush combination thing was awesome. But so it's not that there weren't shining moments in that era with some awesome music, U2. There was, but I was producing Much Music. So every day for 8 to 9 hours, I'm watching, Depeche Mode, and I'm just getting. So
maybe you'd have a different view if you weren't working so closely with those songs every 5 minutes.
No, no, because then the prevailing thought was, rock is dinosaur, rock is dead. This is and one more digression there is that what I didn't know at the time that was going to happen, I didn't foresee when rock would be reborn in the grunge era. which in the end, that's all Nirvana and Pearl Jam are playing is rock and roll. You really listen to Mike McCready do a guitar solo. He's doing Freebird.
Yeah.
You know, so they're just doing rock and roll.
Oh, yeah. Soundgarden too.
Soundgarden, all of that, right?
Yeah.
I didn't foresee that.
Yeah.
All I saw was hair metal
Yeah.
and Cyndi Lauper. And I'm like, you know what? Les is, after 10 years of wanting to be a rock star, Les is checking out.
Yeah.
So then I stood there in a midlife crisis as a young man, young man's crisis. What do I do now? And I grew up adoring Jacques Cousteau and Tarzan movies. And I had a cottage in Bracebridge, Ontario, and fishing with my dad. So I thought, okay, the wilderness. I didn't even know what that meant. But in my brain, I saw the words, the wilderness. And I took I saw a little survival course in the back ads of a newspaper, the Toronto Sun. And there was, Humber College, wilderness survival courses, learn edible wild plants, build shelters. I was like, whoa, that sounds like me. Well, the first class I ever took, man, I was like a kid again.
Yeah.
I fell in love. I'm sitting in a shelter and my boots are sticking out in the rain and mosquitoes are buzzing all around me. I'm like, I love this.
Yeah. This adventure.
So now getting to this long way around, but you can't just ask
No.
about something that changed my life without getting the background. So in the process of doing that and learning survival, I discovered this thing that apparently people do called canoeing.
Yeah.
And this thing that apparently people do called hiking and sea kayaking and wilderness trekking.
Yeah.
And I remember, even a guy who ended up becoming my, essentially a hero of mine and a guy who I patterned a lot of my filmmaking after, the teacher walked in one day and said, did you hear, this might've been my first survival class, said, did you hear that Bill Mason died? And I said, who's Bill Mason? And now anybody who's older than 40 in Canada and loves canoeing would gasp at that right now. But I didn't, what do I know? I was trying to be Neil Young.
Yeah.
So I then, anybody who talked about wilderness anything, my ears perked up. Buddy of mine was a camp counselor type guy.
Yeah.
He did, what do you do? He did, what's it called? Like when not disadvantaged, but people on the edge of potentially going to jail, at risk. So he would take at-risk youth out and do canoe trips with cedar strip canvas canoes and Duluth, canvas packs. And,
Oh, that's birch.
And then he would take them out into places like Temagami. And we became friends. And he said, hey, man, we're doing a canoe trip. You want to come? I'm like, do I want, to me, it's like, might as well ask me, do I want to go climb in the Himalayas or go to the Amazon jungle? I'm like, yeah. Never been north of Bracebridge. So, so he and I, a bunch of us, there's, I guess, 8 of us. I met him. I came up to Temagami, Ontario. Track pants, grabbed Kodiak construction boots, ripped arms off my sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Still looking, I was described once as looking like Sting with a degree in edible plants.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because I was still half rock star, wannabe, half Tarzan wannabe, right?
Yeah.
But I blended my sense of fashion to the wilderness. I looked ridiculous, but I'm telling you, we paddled the Lady Evelyn River and we hiked Maple Mountain. And as I could have been on, the greatest exploration adventure of all time, pre Lewis and Clark and Jacques Cartier and all the voyageurs, as far as I was concerned. This was like,
absolutely.
Oh my God,
this
is canoeing.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And Temagami, it just went, you see what you've got up here? Here we are. Here I am,
Yeah.
And if you want to partake, and I never looked back. I took every canoeing course I could take. I became certified in all the levels of whitewater and flat water and emergency preparedness and first aid and river rescue and everything. Became an outdoor guide. And the next fast forwarding I'll leave you with is that I ended up getting a position with the Temagami Canoe Company.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Which is defunct now.
Yeah.
And as an outdoor guide.
Wow.
And eventually would run that place.
Yeah.
So picture me in Temagami for 10 years doing every inch by canoe.
Just covering
for
it
the
all.
next, unbelievable. I still, and I did a canoe trip here last year and I'm doing one here in a month. I went a lot of years without doing any, but oh man, I paddled the Temagami forwards and backwards. And the thing is, it is the diamond of canoeing.
Yeah.
In Ontario, in Canada.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm rambling here, but
no, this is great.
No.
No, this is great. Yeah.
If you look at, I have a place down in Southern Oregon in the United States right now,
Right.
Or as they say down there, Southern Oregon.
Yeah.
And as a Canadian, Oregon, but it's actually they're right. It's Oregon.
Oregon.
And I realized recently we do a lot of backpacking,
Yeah.
and a lot of road cycling, because that's what Oregon is built for.
Right.
If I wanted to canoe in Oregon, there's nowhere to go. A couple of reservoirs, I did discover that there is a phenomenal couple of rivers there for whitewater paddlers, and nobody uses a canoe. Wow. They only go down in raft and a couple of kayaks, and that's it. I'm going to take a canoe. I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb. I'll be like, yeah, that's right. I'm the Canadian. I'm going to show you how this is done.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
That's awesome.
You gravitate towards, if you lived in the ocean, you become a surfer. If you live in the mountains, you climb mountains, and or you ski. On and on it goes. Well, Ontario,
Yeah.
Northern Quebec, Northern Manitoba, Northeast Manitoba, and all of Ontario, canoeing. It's the canoe mecca of the world. And in the canoe mecca of the world, Temagami is the center of it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Well, don't get me wrong. Everybody who loves Algonquin is, what about Algonquin Park? Okay, it's Algonquin Park, beautiful. Oh, what about over here and over there? Yeah, that's great, but you got to see Temagami. It's like if there was ever a place in Ontario that epitomized perfect canoeing country, it's Temagami, Ontario.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when you first explored, I guess, the rivers when you came here as a young man, like what was it? What was special about it that really stuck out to you? What about Temagami makes it just such an amazing paddling place?
Well, sadly, one of the things was the clarity of the water due to the acid rain coming out of Sudbury.
Oh man!
In those years, I mean, you could smell it in the Lady Evelyn, in Franklin Falls and Center Falls. You could smell, and the water was clear. You could see to the bottom. You can't anymore. Because it's healthy again, right? When they stopped all that, but at that time, it was like, I thought that was normal.
Yeah.
Wow, this is so freakishly beautiful. It was freakishly beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's
What was the result? Like, what was that a result of? The acid rain? Was it a mining thing or?
The big stacks, the big Sudbury stacks, right? And then they I don't know the technical details, but they imposed all the limitations on it and stopped a lot of stuff, and things have been clearing up. That's why that whole dead zone to the east of Sudbury, you could, from the air, it's dark. It's like, oh my God. Well, it's all finally growing back. I don't know what they did, but they've done something.
Yeah.
Well, Temagami had that at the time. The waters are really crystal clear. Now they're back to being the way they're supposed to be: green, filled with growing things,
life,
the weed beds and all of that. So there's that. That's the sad comment. But the happy comment, I mean, really, I kind of answered it just before this. Is that it is what stands out is that it there's nothing more classic about canoeing that you can't find in Temagami. It really just, man, the portage routes from the traditional indigenous cultures, a lot of that, the traditional routes, the way the routes work. I paddle up in Wabakimi in Northern Ontario. It's phenomenal as well, but the routes work differently there.
Yeah.
You're forced into certain ways of being up there with the longer river stretches. The lakes are bigger, and so, but here it's like if somebody said, hey, design for me canoeable country.
Yeah.
Kaboom, Temagami.
Yeah.
More than anywhere else, I think.
Yeah.
And is it because of the connectedness of all the rivers and the bodies of water? Is that the thing that makes it a canoeable sort of region?
Yeah. And also the history to it, because the history has it that there are portages in the places you want there to be. So, you could run the gamut from having sand beaches to stay on.
Yeah.
To rocky outpoints that are epic. We're not a mountainous region, and I think maybe that's part of it. If we were mountainous, that closes everything in, right? That's why the canoeing in British Columbia is pretty, but it ain't Temagami. Because you can only go for so long, right? Here, you can plan multiple journeys, multiple routes, multiple directions, and essentially keep yourself going without even leaving the area not for a summer, for years.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that is different. If you go to northern Quebec, you concentrate more on the Des Moines River. You concentrate more on these longer stretches of river. I'm probably going to do the Mountain River next year in Northwest Territories. In the you concentrate on these bigger, wider rivers that go forever. In BC, you're hemmed in by the mountains. So and like I said earlier, in Oregon, well, most of the lakes are reservoirs. It's not the same. It just like I said, I don't know. It's just like Temagami was built for canoeing, and so on a different note, it's freaking me out that it's not as vibrant and active as it used to be. Now, you can say, well, what do you mean? What I mean is, here's what I mean. Here's a great way to put it. In the 80s, when we would paddle here, at 4:30, you picked up your pace. Why? Because it's the 4:30 rush to the campsite.
Yeah.
It's the 4:30 rush to who's going to get that spot on that point. Not that there aren't 20 amazing places to camp within a few miles or 10 or whatever, but you want that one. You pick. It's like, guys, just stop. We got to move. Now, take your time.
Yeah.
It'll be open. And do I think that's a good thing? If you're here paddling, it's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Do I think it's a good thing in general? It's horror. It scares the crap out of me. No, I want people here. People should be here paddling. And listen, the 4 o'clock rush is not a bad thing. There's so many other amazing campsites that you didn't even know about. So look at your map and go, oh, all right, that one's taken. We'll go to the other one. You get to that one and go, oh my God. This one has a sand beach. Didn't know that. This is even better. So I'm a very... I'm tangenting here, but I was a purist once upon a time. Like, let's set apart areas that nobody can ever touch, and just the wolves will live there. But what happens is, if nobody ever goes there, that's kind of there's no segue to what's going on here. But if nobody ever goes, then nobody falls in love with it. Then someday those nobodies are sitting on a board somewhere, deciding whether or not it should be logged. Well, they've never seen it, so let's log it. Let's mine it. Let's put a road through. But if they've been there, they go, whoa, whoa, whoa. What are we talking about doing here? Well, we're talking about cutting down the north sector. I fished that sector for years. I hiked that sector for years. I canoed that. No. Let's have a proper discussion about this. So this is what I mean by the fact that it scares me that people aren't here. But if you are a wilderness lover and an adventure lover and a paddler and you want to go somewhere, I'm saying, get in your car, strap on your canoe, or come here and rent one. Everything's here, and get to Temagami. It's pure canoeing gold, hands down. Yeah. And I know what I'm talking about. Trust me.
Yeah.
That might be a nice segue to get.
Eric, do you want to join us? Sure. Come on down, man.
Bring a chair.
Yeah.
The two best talkers that I know.
Appropriately with a Temagami shirt on.
Yeah, exactly.
Good to see you, Eric.
Good to see you too. How are you?
Good.
How's that? Does it work?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So
sexy voice.
I'll go all low voice.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I just wanted to talk a little bit about threats that have faced Temagami in the past. Like, what are some past threats that have happened at Temagami? I mean, has there been examples of industry or communities trying to do probably negative things to landscape in Temagami?
Well, I think Les will know more about this than I do, but I in the early '70s with Maple Mountain putting a ski resort there was sort of a ridiculous notion, and that sort of started a lot of the environmental awareness up here. And then, of course, the famous Red Squirrel Road blockade in the late '80s, raised a lot of awareness about the area. People like Bob Ray were arrested and chaining themselves to trees and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Bob Ray.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a big sort of, I don't know if it was political or not, but it didn't matter. He was here.
Yeah.
And he was willing to be on the Red Squirrel Road, and he was willing to be arrested for the cause and protecting the old growth red and white pine.
Wow.
And it's interesting too, because I think, the next big fight is going to be the Solus Road, the Twinkle Lake, the road that they call it the Turner Road. So they're sort of, people consider it an illegal road. I don't know what the legality of it is. PJ at Friends of Temagami, he's knee deep in it right now with his lawyers and court injunctions and that sort of thing. But on the other side of it, you also feel like, the area needs some industry, and how do you, go between the two and make sure people can eat. So it's a tough position to take a lot of the time, because a lot of my friends are up here are in those industries as well. So you kind of like, I don't know. We almost sold a Friends of Temagami map to a guy from ACOM who are doing the forest, the Eagle Lake cut up there. And he picked up, this is a great map. Who made this map? I'm going to buy this map. I'm like, oh, that's a Friends of Temagami map. How ironic would it be if you bought that? He's like, he puts it back down. He wouldn't buy it.
And there have been past years where the friction shall we call it, has been intense. We used to, when I was running canoe trips for the Temagami Wilderness Center, I said Temagami Canoe Company earlier. I didn't mean that. That's John's canoe making company. No, I meant the Temagami Wilderness Center is the place that I actually ran and operated, and we ran trips. And we would do the Temagami River and come out at Field, little town, and the entire population of Field would circle us in the parking lot and looking like they were going to lynch mob us.
Oh, man.
And we've come out with, and there were many years where tires would be slashed because you'd leave a pickup vehicle there and paddle the canoes down and someone would leave a vehicle there. We had to stop leaving vehicles there so you've got people coming off of canoe trips. You might have somebody who's injured badly, needs quickly to get to a hospital or something like that, and their vehicles, their tires slashed. We were cornered in the restaurant there by the town's residents. Again, they were just making the assumption that anybody with a paddle in their hand and a bandana on their head and a canoe on their car must be, a representative of the people who are trying to put them out of work, which is not the case. Obviously, it could be anybody going down the river. But there was a lot of friction, mostly through, truthfully told, to just unfortunate ignorance, miscommunication, people not really knowing what was going on.
And it's interesting too, because there's been economic studies done with regards to the Wikimedia Triangle, which was the sort of the flashpoint, I believe, of the extension of the Red Squirrel Road. And if you look at the economic input of the area, the jobs that it would have created and the length of time that it would have created economic development in the town, it pales in comparison to the tourism that actual area brings to the town over the 30-year period that it's been standing. If you look at greed, because at the end of the day, it's mostly about greed, I think there's a strong case that says the greediest thing you could do for the best lifestyle and economic development of the area is what that whole backyard behind us offers. And I don't think a lot of people look at it. Politically, they certainly don't look at it. When they talk about jobs in the last election, they're really only talking about 10 jobs for some people that are unemployed that want to work. They should work. They want to work, and they're good people. But we're not talking about a situation where we're trying to find jobs for 25,000 people because we're this hugely depressed society. It's a small town. It's a small number of people that need work. And there's a huge opportunity, and it's like what Les was saying earlier. I started paddling here with my wife, Karen. She grew up paddling here as well. And in the 80s, if you did the Diamond Babica this weekend, you'd go by 25 groups, you'd be racing for campsites. Yeah. And we've had groups this week that have come back from doing the Diamond Babica saying they haven't seen anyone on it. And that's unbelievable. And if you read Hap's books, he talks about the shoulder seasons and do those trips at this time of year because they're busy. Everything is wide open right now. You can do any of those trips in there that would traditionally be a busy trip. For some reason, you're good to go right now. So
and the beauty of wanting to pack it back in again and have lots of people here, go back out there and look. You still don't see anything but footprints. You don't see. Yeah. It's not like there were so many tourists in the 80s. Look at the damage that no, because it's canoeing, tourism. And dare I say it, maybe with maybe the odd exception to the rule, there is no damage done. It just carries on. It's what a renewable resource, if you will, using a cliche. I mean, it just carries on. The damage doesn't get done because a paddle stroke in the water doesn't do anything.
Well, being a good steward and a caretaker too is part of the culture, right? The paddling culture.
Supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be. You try to, and that's the thing too, like the camps, we used to try to teach a lot of that stuff. For example, when we would take kids out, we always took out one big empty canoe pack. Why? For garbage. Right. It always came back full. Yeah. And most of the time, people are going to hate me for this, most of the time it was not canoeists' garbage that we were bringing back. It would be, well, generally speaking, it would be anglers who left behind propane bottles and things like that. And the irony is that they're there in a freaking motorboat. Then in going to a car when carrying stuff out would be easy, we're there in our little canoes and our little group of kids from Etobicoke, on our 4-day trip with these 13-year-olds, and we're bringing out a canoe pack full of garbage. It was our mandate every time. So yeah, I mean, it is definitely a soft imprint upon the land. I'm speaking so poetically now, but that's what canoeing is, man. It's, you can't interact with the land profoundly as well as you can when you canoe, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. And to your point about garbage on websites, on campsites.
That too. No, but
A lot of garbage on websites.
You can tell where my brain has been recently. Up in Coqueco, there's been a lot of people saying, the campsites are messy. And I've been up there, and it's not canoe garbage. It's things like bed springs and motors and just weird stuff that people dump there.
Yep.
Trash.
And you'd never paddle that stuff in just to get rid of it. So,
But if you have a big motorboat and you just want to get it out of the porch, let's boat it across over there, sort of thing. You're going fishing there next weekend, aren't you? Yeah. Okay. Well, take the bed spring with you. Take the fridge with you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bizarre.
Super bizarre, yeah.
I don't think that happens anymore, but I think that
Yes, it does. I think it does. I think it still does. I know a dirt road that you couldn't get access to. Recently, there was access allowed to it because someone wants to sell a property that's up there, so the gate was opened up. And in 5 years, there's 3 dumps up there now.
Unreal.
Bed springs,
and it's
fridges.
not like there aren't dumps that they can take it to either.
I know. But there's a different.
Just a weird.
There's a different mentality.
Yeah.
And there's a different mentality certainly with canoeists. It's not to say that canoeists are the be all and end all of forest stewardship or anything like that. But by nature of the activity itself, you can't be a massive polluter because you got to dip your cup in the same water and drink it. Exactly. I mean, what do you mean you don't drink the water up there? Yes, you can actually drink the water here. You can do that, but not if there's a lot of garbage tossed in it. But and there certainly isn't with canoeists. And it even goes. I mean, it goes down to the whole. I'm a fan of just like going straight at it. If I was guiding and teaching, the first discussion is how to shit in the woods.
Yeah.
You got to have it. You don't presume people know how to shit in the woods because most don't.
No. Very fast in June.
Yes.
You go very fast.
Explain why. Go ahead. I know why.
Because you don't want to leave that bum exposed.
No, and because?
Well, there's a lot of bugs.
Exactly. I mean, how many times have you been bitten on the nuts because by mosquitoes and black flies?
Yeah. It's funny in Hap Wilson, I think it's in the Canoe Roots book or the first edition, he talks about how to take a crap in the woods. It's like do it very quickly and you wait till you can't hold it anymore and then you just go and then do it really quickly. So,
or toughen up and get used to the bugs.
Or toughen up and just,
I'll tell you something that happened on a personal level, since we're tangenting to bugs here for a minute. Is that okay? Can we tangent, or do you want to?
Yeah, we love bugs. We're fly fishers, so hey.
All right, bugs and Temagami. I mean, for years I ran kids groups, and one day I can remember where I was. It was Wassaksina, and I was sitting on the campsite, and the bugs are bad, and I just noticed I'm looking, and I've been bitten all trip. There wasn't a single bite on me anywhere. And after years of suffering and purposely remaining stoic so that the teenage kids didn't freak out because they take the lead from you, right? So you're just like, don't worry about it, guys. You're rubbing the mosquitoes on your arms. And it's no big deal. You're staying stoic. Meanwhile, inside you're dying. You're like, mosquitoes, I'm never tripping in the spring again. Yeah. But you stay stoic. And years of doing that. And then all of a sudden I realized that my body actually developed an immunity. So to this day, I can be bitten by deer flies, black flies, and mosquitoes. And I get nothing. I get bitten, I get harassed, I hate it just like you do, but I don't go to bed with any bites on me. Whoa. And that actually changes a lot, when you're not.
Can we take some samples and make after bite?
I know. It's like I'm a mutant. This is my superpower. Man, I'm a mutant. No.
The more you do it, though, your threshold for that sort of misery really goes up. So I know, myself, lots of tripping and you don't react as much until this year. You can't. For me, actually.
It's bad this year.
It's not mosquitoes or black flies. All of a sudden, with these horse flies, I'm just welting up. I've never seen. And it was like the perfect storm this year because everything came late. So you had mosquitoes, black flies, horse flies, deer flies, all at once, just feasting on.
We are not making a good case to get people canoeing up here right now, are we?
No, that's
bugs are gone now.
Actually, everybody, we're only talking about the parking lot of
only the parking lot.
The grocery store. That's it.
Not on a windy island.
Yeah,
you're fine.
See, it's funny because in the old days, so to speak, We used to make jokes like that because we didn't want to tell too many people about our little secret of Temagami, how beautiful it is. But it's changed. Now it's like, no, understand, the bug season's there, but it finishes. And by God, when they're gone, it's unbelievably beautiful. I mean, I still maintain like September is when I'm,
totally.
If I'm here in September, I'm in heaven.
Do you know what we're getting a lot of inquiries of people that are tired of going to Algonquin and Killarney because of the crowds, though?
Yep.
So we get almost every day there's a call from someone that says, I've been going to Algonquin for 10 years and I'm tired of lining up for portages.
Algonquin's busy, man.
Or I can't get a campsite at Killarney because I wasn't on the phone Feb 1 when the site reservation.
But Eric, what happened? Because Temagami was always that other place you could go because of that. It's almost like these people that are saying that, it's like they didn't, where's Temagami? It's like, you don't know. Yeah. And these are people who might have been going to Algonquin or Killarney for years. They just don't seem to. So what happened?
You know what? It's a strange thing too, because, coming here in the 80s and 90s, it's like you said, it seems after the Red Squirrel blockade and all that stuff, it kind of quieted down a little. And you thought that would have raised awareness for it. Right now, I think it's hard to compare this year to last year because of the fires. I remember you came in last year at the height of the fire, and we couldn't talk you out of not going down to Wasp 16. We're like, Les, it's all on fire down there. Like, I don't care, I'm going in.
And it was beautiful too.
Yeah, I bet.
On one spot, we could see the red glow and the smoke. But Eric and I looked over the map, checked the prevailing winds, where everything was, where it was going, and I knew we were going to be okay. But you could see it.
What was really funny though, I was talking to Johnny after Les left, and I go to Johnny, well, if anyone's going to be okay in that situation, it's probably Les Stroud. It's not like we're sending out some guy wearing leather shoes from Toronto.
So, which happens.
It does happen. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're only a 5-hour drive, and that was in rush hour last night. It took us about 5 hours, and we stopped. That's not far from Toronto at all.
Well, and this is my curiosity, or my maybe even frustration is you're willing to go to Algonquin where it's quite busy. And don't get me, nobody start hating me on this. Algonquin is phenomenal and it's beautiful, and the canoeing is amazing there. By the way, the bugs are bad there too.
Oh yeah.
And people go there, or Killarney, same thing, amazing. But they're not coming to Temagami, and like I said, I threw away my purist card years ago. I want them here. I want them hiking the trails and paddling the canoe routes and staying at the campsites, because if they're here, they're seeing it, and if they're seeing it, they're falling in love with it, and they're falling in love with it, they're going to be part of the voice that wants to keep it alive and protect it. That's where I come from.
So in the 2 years that Karen and I have owned the business here, and I worked as a guide here the year before that, we saw first-timers come in, and they say things to us now like, we will not consider going anywhere else because this is where we want to come. And once people have come here, just like you guys, when we first met and you guys come up, you're like, oh, this place is amazing. And even though we didn't really catch any fish that time, that was kind of bizarre. But
you fly fishing?
Yeah, it was cold. Yeah. It was the year when everything was like cold and
it was tough. It was just tough.
The sun didn't come out the whole summer.
So these are all the blaming things you're blaming it on?
It certainly doesn't come down to us.
It was the cold and weather and the bugs and the thing. And
I was the guide. I was the guide, so you can blame the guide.
We've come back. We've come back.
You always blame the guide. It's never the client's fault.
Exactly.
Every year since.
But you meet these people that have come here for the first time, and now they've done 3 or 4 trips, and we every year we have that one person that comes opening weekend, sort of first, second week of May. They do a trip. It's crazy. It's snowing. It's this, and then they come back in June, and then they do like 3 or 4 trips between July 1st and Ison. And you meet those people, and then they become these crazy,
different people.
Hardcore canoe trippers that had never been here before and never really even canoe tripped. To see that happen is actually a really rewarding thing as an outfitter.
So what was it? So I guess we talked about the 80s being a really popular time, right, for Temagami and paddlers. Was it an influx of people paddling then that caused that, or was it that people stopped coming? Did something happen in the 90s to make it Temagami less popular?
Well, if I may, Eric, I think in a bigger picture sense, I mean, it was the freaking internet. It was these things. It just went off. It's our little screens. It's the change of society. I think it's a change. Well, yeah, but everybody's going to Algonquin. Yeah, but Algonquin's really close, and it doesn't take that much to make Algonquin be super busy. It's not that big. There aren't that many routes, sort of thing. So last time I was here, I flew, and the pilot said, the canoeing's way off, like hardly anybody's canoeing, he said. Yeah. But he said the fishing is way up. Lots of people are fishing. So I don't, maybe Eric's got a different take on it, or there's a by take as well to this, but I think if there is another point to this, that at least part of the equation is also the way society is and kids are, as far as wanting to outdoor adventure and canoe.
Yeah.
What happened to the days of kids camp and that being a big thing? It's parents, oh man, let's get going on soccer moms. Because just people who are so afraid to let their kids out in the backyard, never mind out on a canoe trip where they're going to die.
Yeah.
Well, the camps, the canoe camps up here, like Wanapate and Langskib, North Waters, Keewaydin, and Camp Temagami, Waban, they're all thriving.
Good.
And we do a lot of driving for Wanapate, and their groups are full, and they're going to crazy places. And so I think that the young generation of trippers is certainly there. I think we lost sort of a it's probably my generation. I still feel like I'm introducing a lot of my friends to this. I'm sort of one of those people like, hey,
it's your fault.
Come do what I do.
It's Eric's fault.
It's Eric's fault.
So it's my generation's fault. But the I don't know if you call it the millennial generation or the Gen Zen.
Yeah, Gen Z.
But that whole let's have experience over stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing we have a young group, and then we have those people 55 to 70.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that age group in between that seems to be missing. So, to your point before about what happened, it could be a generational thing. I think what happened to Temagami, though, the town seemed to just atrophy in the 90s with the Milne Sherman mine closing down, and this used to be a town with 4 gas stations and a couple of taverns, and now you can't even find something to eat here after 8 p.m. on a Saturday night. The town is absolutely desolate in the winter, and it's a winter wonderland out there too. We do winter groups, and we have a great time, and it's a beautiful time to come up here. But it just seems that the town, because it's become so small, and there's really not that much to buy. And
so do you think that the vibrancy, so what you're saying is the vibrancy of the town is directly connected to the lack of interest in the area on the adventurous side?
Potentially. I'm sort of trying to figure out, like you, what went down, and the supermarket closes in the winter now, closes Thanksgiving weekend, opens up May 2-4 weekend. So what do you do in a town where there's no supermarket if you want to go do stuff? It's just there's nothing to. Yeah. It's hard to get your ducks in order, ducks in a row. So the town is not the town it was when I first started coming here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Really?
Well, I used to play in the restaurants and perform. I remember dressing up as a mummy and playing in the Busy Bee for Halloween kind of thing. And the Busy Bee was a thing.
It was such a thing.
It was a big thing. It was actually kind of infamous. Around people.
Busy Bee.
Well, there you go. Yeah. See, the Busy Bee is a restaurant right in the middle of town. I mean, it's just a restaurant.
Yeah.
Nothing more. It just happened to be right in the middle of town and made really good grilled cheeses. It was just the Busy. I think it was the name. You had to stop at the Busy Bee. It was maybe good timing. If you come from New Liskeard, or you've come from Latchford, or you've come from Cochrane or someplace, the Busy Bee was a good timing, because then the rest of the drive is kind of like a straight shoot through to North Bay if you're headed south.
Yeah.
So I think the Busy Bee, it was definitely a focal point. And I see, your point. I just don't know how much of it has to do with canoeists and trippers, because, for the gang that's coming from Toronto, there was always a disconnect between the southern adventurer coming to paddle a canoe trip in Temagami and the local towns people, for sure. I mean, I lived here, and there seemed to be a disconnect. I think. I see what you're saying. Maybe it's just a matter of, one thing is leading to the other. For one thing, if this place was still packed with canoe trippers, there would be more businesses open.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I'm no economist, but maybe that's a way.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's chicken and egg. I think, but it's really back to a case in Eric's point in the beginning, is that the economic thrivability, if you will, that can be here because of the backyard can come from people coming here, right?
Yeah.
Tourism, people coming to paddle a canoe and to fish and to hunt and to hike. Not a lot of hiking, but that can drive things. And I'm going to digress for a second. That the local townspeople, if you will, in 100,000 towns around everywhere in the world, there's always the battle over, well, we just want the mine. We just want the thing, right? So if you take a cue from, oh man, it starts with an L. It's the name of it's like the prison name in
Leavenworth.
Thank you. In Leavenworth, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a cue from Leavenworth, Washington, they were in this position. I remember we're actually opening a raw nerve for me, because I remember arguing with people in the town council and that in Temagami, trying to get things to really roll. And it was a freaking battleground just to get, you want to bring more people here to this stuff, and they were just
nothing has changed.
Right. It's like, no, we want the mine.
Yeah.
We want the mine.
Yeah.
We want the mine. It was just put on the record, and there was Leavenworth was in that same position, but whoever I bet you it was one charismatic individual. Usually that's what it takes. Whoever this person was, whatever happened in those board meetings, that person or those three people, that's what it comes down to, with that idea, won the day. And Leavenworth said, we look like Bavaria.
Yeah.
Let's turn Leavenworth into a Bavarian town. Now, you have worked for the mine for the last 23 years. You're thinking, you freaking snowflake, get out of my town. That's what you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
Well, they won the day. Leavenworth now has, I'm just going to horribly misquote this, I believe over 16 million visitors. It's a freaking paradise there. You come down the town, the entire town looks like you stepped into a Bavaria. Whoa. Every storefront has to, including Starbucks, has to be built like a Bavarian front. The building structure, the whole thing, all the lights and everything. Yeah. Everybody goes there now just pre-Christmas.
Yeah.
And it is a paradise, and they are printing money. That's a license to print money. I remember that with Temagami saying how we started this conversation. Do you guys not realize how amazing Temagami is as a natural environment? It's, I apologize, better than Algonquin. It's better than Clardy. It's better than all these. It is the epitome of wilderness adventure travel in Ontario.
Totally. And I've had the same conversation with a few people on council and the mayor, and I said, because when the election was, they'd come in and say, hey, well, what do you think? What do you think is best for the town? I said, well, it starts with sort of understanding the asset, and what is the asset?
Right.
And the asset is the backcountry. And Temagami, if left to its own devices, it thinks that it's more of would be a mini Timmins, or its end goal would be like a Timmins. To grow into something like that, where I think the town has much more in common with a place like Jackson Hole, Wyoming, or something
Eli, Minnesota.
Exactly. That's the direction it should go in. That's the most sustainable direction. That's the greediest direction. That's the direction that you don't have to sit there and watch the price of gold and see if the extraction method that we have warrants pulling it out of the ground if it drops below $1,700 an ounce. You look at all these towns. You show me a town that's been left better off after extractive resource industries, and I don't think that exists.
Well, there's a place called Willow Creek in California, and they embraced something. So we're saying here about Temagami embracing outdoor adventure. We'll just say, and when I say outdoor adventure, I mean fishing, hunting, paddling, photography, all the whole 9 yards. Willow Creek. You know what they embraced? Their Bigfoot lore. It's the town to go if you like Bigfoot. Yeah. They have a mural on the side of a building that's massive that is all the logging from the past century and all this stuff. And if you look, there's a few Bigfoot in there, working with the loggers. They embraced it. The museum is there, the whole thing. And as a result,
that's their attraction.
They have the people coming by. People go there just to pose with the damn Bigfoot statue. Yeah. We have so much more than that, although we have Bigfoot too. We have so much more than that when it comes to, as I said, look, if you live in Germany or Scandinavia or UK, you dream people from there still dream of the Canadian wilderness. They are still fascinated. The older generation, the Jack London books, the younger generation, watching Survivor Man and watching Ray Mears, and they come over here and they don't have forests like we have. And Temagami is the best case. It's the best example for people from other countries. Yeah. So.
We get German and British clients, and they're blown away when they see it. It's always as advertised.
Yep. Yes, as advertised. Exactly. We're not, and look, I've seen so much territory in Canada, and I've canoed all of it. Yeah. But you just, as we started off saying, I can't overstate that. It's just there's no canoeable waterways like Temagami, Ontario, anywhere on the planet.
Well, the book says it's the largest system of interconnected canoe routes in the world.
There you go.
So,
It's crazy,
if
man.
you'll take that at its word, less is 100% right. And apparently, it also says on Wikipedia that it's the largest undeveloped continuous freshwater shoreline in the world. And you say,
Lake Temagami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you say, what about Lake Superior? Well, it really doesn't go more than a couple hundred kilometers without some sort of industry on it. Well, there's 6 cottages on the mainland of Lake Temagami in town. And then if you walk that shoreline all the way back to town, all the way up to Whitefish Bay and down to Beijing and all those areas, you will not step on a single piece of industry, cottage, building structure, anything. And they're so serious about that they evicted Project Canoe from the mainland down near the hub. And, that's a pretty serious thing to do, because that was a pretty meaningful organization to a lot of people. But they want to keep that shoreline undeveloped. And that also makes canoeing through a fairly populated region. I mean, Temagami has 1,300 islands. On those 1,300 islands, 600 of them have cottages. And you can still paddle through Lake Temagami and feel like you're in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So, for sure.
We've done it, yeah.
And, when we go on trips here, our first objective is to get off Lake Temagami. And so the second you're off Lake Temagami,
Even more so.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're just in it.
And the commentary, you can just kind of hear someone listening who's like loves fly fishing and likes your podcast and going, bunch of tree hugging, paddling hippie freaks. Listen, man. Well, the thing is, it's not. That's not it. We're not a bunch of tree hugging, greeny, earthy hippie freaks. Maybe a bit, but that's not it. It's just that life and society have to be progressive. They have to move. You can't just keep doing something that's wrong because it was tradition.
Yes, exactly.
At some point you have to look at something and go, hey man, I'm not going to disrespect my grandfather's role in this. He didn't know. It's what it is. But we've reached the end of that now. That era is, so you said something about, people need jobs, but the jobs don't have to be in the mine. Sorry if that's your case, but you've got to think out of the box. So you've got to think beyond, having tunnel vision and going, well, the only job we want is a mine job or something, or the only job we want is forestry. And I'm not suggesting we don't need mining and forestry. I live in a house. I drive a car. I can't be a hypocrite. Life is life is conflict. But by the same token, you do have to look at our extraction and our resources and where we get them and how we get them. And when society and knowledge deems it's time to stop, then you're going to need to get a different job. If I was a canoe guide and I can't guide anymore here anymore because nobody's coming canoeing, then I need to get a different job. Or should I just piss and moan and whine because I don't have my job?
You can't sell
anymore.
buggy whips in the car era.
I mean, it's a great point.
Right, exactly. Good
we
one.
have a fortuitous visitor who just walked through the door. We have PJ Justison, who just came in here, the president of Friends of Temagami.
Hey, PJ.
Yeah, so.
Speaking of tree hugging hippies.
Yeah. Well, he would be the wealth of information on stats and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Well, we'd love to have him on the show, too.
he knows what he's talking about.
Man, that's some really amazing discussion, guys. Like, you split our minds in half. I
Yeah.
think. We're just starting to
Especially
scrape
mine.
the-
I think
Especially
Eric
Yeah.
represents absolutely the newer generation of people that are here, and for 15 years before Eric got here, I was here doing the same thing, the exact same things. So between the two of us, we watched this thing, but it saddens me to hear that some of the same old arguments are even still considered.
Yeah.
And it saddens me that the campsites are wide open and you don't have to rush to them. But I was happy to hear that lots of people are fishing.
Yep.
Good. I don't want them to fish out lakes, but that's all.
The fishing is amazing.
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
phenomenal.
you don't even see that much fishing traffic as well. We live on the island down the Northeast Arm, Karen and I, with our kids, and we're in 180 feet of water out in the middle of the channel there. And once or twice a summer, you see someone go by down rigging.
Yeah.
It's so rare. And it's loaded with lake trout through there. And,
It's a big lake.
Yeah.
It's a big lake.
Huge walleye, 30-inch walleye.
Which lake are you on?
Temagami.
I'm on Rabbit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I knew that, actually.
Yeah, and I have down riggers on my boats, actually. On my boat, I'll be using it on Wednesday.
You know what I'll say? The Rabbit Castles of Bashkong, Snake Island, I love fishing over there. It is amazing.
It is
I
powerful.
would fish over there over Lake Temagami. I think.
Oh, it's phenomenal. And you know what? I was there, let's say, busiest weekend of the year, August 1st, long weekend last year. I saw one boat.
Yeah.
One. All
crazy.
weekend. One boat in a lake that a couple of years ago caught world record northern pike off by 2 inches. Has lake trout as long as half the size of your canoe.
There's every
Gnarly,
species
man.
over there.
49 inches.
Yeah, that's big.
And Lorraine, beautiful fishing in Lorraine. If you've been in.
Yes, I've been in Lorraine. Yeah, yeah. This is this is the thing: fishing, hunting. Now, these things have their limits, and hopefully, the ministry knows how to keep the limits in check and do the right thing when it comes to fishing and what lakes are hit and what aren't hit. But that's certainly a renewable resource, and the fish, when they're left alone, they come back. And same thing with hunting. There was once upon a time it looked like Vietnam up here. You came up here in hunting season, and oh my God, you couldn't swing a cat and not hit an orange vest. Right? So. Thankfully, things are supposedly held in check that way, but the reality is the hunting, the fishing, regardless of your sensibilities in those fields, the canoeing, this is still Temagami, Ontario. And I would say I was just about to say, with all its warts, there are no warts here.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful, it's a beautiful
canvas,
place.
Yeah. You dabble in a little bit of fly fishing, Les? Mm-hmm. Do you fly fish up here ever? And do you have any favorite spots around?
First of all, I suck.
Yeah.
Let's just get that.
So do we.
According to my fly fishing friends, like one buddy who can say it, you suck. Shut up, Bruce. Shut up. But I have caught fish.
Yeah.
Right on.
Fly fishing. Yeah. So I'm actually a bit of I'm a neophyte. I'm a newbie, but I love it. Yeah. Oh my God, what it did for me was sounds pathetic, but it gave me something to do while fishing.
Yeah.
It's so active.
Yeah.
And you really plan out your plan of attack, and all of a sudden you're the mind of the fly.
Yeah.
If I was a fly, I would want to land over there. You're doing all this, which you don't get to do when you're puttering along and trolling, which I also love too. But no, I love fly fishing. It's a powerful way to feel certainly more mentally active while you fish.
Yeah.
Well, it's an amazing place to fly fish.
Yeah.
The Lady Evelyn system.
Yeah, we did it
Is
last year.
without a doubt, when you get deep into it, it's got to be one of the best places for brook trout in the
trout.
world. We did an episode with the new fly fisher last year, and we were out. We really fished for 3 days, and we caught over 50 brookies.
Nice.
All on dry flies.
Wow.
So it was like movie style. They'd hit the fly out of the water, and
nice.
And they were starving. It was amazing, and no one goes there and puts on waders and throws flies. You get the occasional people that go through and toss like Meps aglias and stuff like that. Canoe trippers, but canoe trippers don't really fish.
They don't,
because they're always moving. So they're like anytime you catch a fish when you're on a canoe trip, it's sort of a fortuitous catch because you're like, I'm going to fish for the next 10 minutes. If they stop biting, I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
And that's when you catch a fish. You fish for 10 minutes a day. When we focused on that river where we fished it for 10 hours each day, it's the best days of fishing I've ever had. And you are in waist deep rapids with your waders on, and you're tossing over to the other eddy and drifting it across the current. And it's how it's supposed to be. It's what you're looking for when you're fly fishing. And those guys, Mark and Jeremy, who came to film the show, they had just come from another place where they got shut out and they couldn't do the episode. And they spend money on this stuff. So they were really nervous when we got up there. And they said, well, we were there last week with the SoFly guys, and we did okay for half a day.
Yeah.
And
We did.
we caught, 6
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
like half a day. Yeah.
I said even Yoma caught a brook
Yeah,
trout.
exactly.
And,
Caught one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, I think he did catch the biggest one.
Yeah.
And so they're a little bit nervous. And that first stream, right away, we caught like 4 or 5. And you can see their relief.
Yeah.
Oh, so because they need 6 fish for a show.
Right. Okay.
And every single cast, he's following you. Both of them. And we had other guys with cameras and stuff.
Why do
And
they need 6 fish?
That's kind of their formula, I guess. He said we need
specific.
6. We need 6 fish on a show, so we can do 6 different kind of things. And
never
we had the
formula.
6 fish before 2 in the afternoon, and you could see all of a sudden it was a little more chilled out, and then we just couldn't keep them off.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
That's fishing in
Yeah.
Temagami.
Yeah.
I mean,
really
you're
is.
right. You can't fish and canoe at the same time.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
you
very,
got to focus on one or
One
the
at a
other.
time.
And
Yeah.
they're nice sized brookies, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like we go for the trico hatch on the upper credit, and they're small, very small, delicate brookies, beautiful. But here you're getting like 13, 14, 15-inch brookies.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. Well, we've got 5 more questions. We do 5 questions every show. Last before because I know you've got to get.
Yeah, I
got to
go to sound check. So yeah,
Gotta go to
Oh, so
sound check.
perfect.
He's got to go rock
5
and roll.
questions. Mitchie's
Rock and
Fishes
roll.
5. So the first question is, what is your favorite fish and why?
Favorite fish to catch.
Let's say to catch.
Yeah.
Favorite fish to catch. Pound for pound, the best fighting fish in the world is a smallmouth bass.
There we go.
Love the smallmouth bass.
Maybe, but I'm going to say a tie between the smallmouth bass and northern pike, a big one.
Yeah.
A big northern pike, but not one that wants to play log.
Yeah.
A big northern pike that's angry,
Yeah.
or any smallmouth bass. I had a smallmouth bass once dance on its tail fin all the way around the freaking aluminum boat. It was like you couldn't have scripted it better. He was literally like, and you're moving like crap, and around. And it was unbelievable, man. It was it was a movie. So yeah, there you go.
I love northern pike, man. Number 2, if you could fish anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why?
Guess I should say Temagami, right? If I could fish anywhere, I have one thing I've never done, and it comes from the mystical stories from my father and my grandfather. My grandfather ran a boat livery, and he always talked about the massive muskie that live in the Black River that flows down through southern Ontario. So I don't know if they're still there. I don't know if it's even true, but I always wanted to put in a boat and just go the length of the river and fish for muskie.
I bet you they are. That
Black
river looks
River.
amazing.
Yes,
Driving
and
over Highway 7.
earns
it's
its name well, man. It's spooky and black and dark.
Yeah.
and
It is a
deep
cool
and-
one. I've been wanting to fish
Dude,
that
you
one.
didn't tell me there was muskie when we passed by?
I think that I don't know. Yeah, like you
Well,
say.
my
it's-
grandfather ran this boat livery, and they were out of Gravenhurst and Aurelia. And I'll tell you a story. They had this is the story.
Okay.
They had a boathouse this is old school, right? So we're talking 60s,
Yeah.
1960s. In the boathouse, they had a 16-foot cedar strip and canvas canoes, right? That we,
Yeah.
because it's the 60s, right?
Yeah.
16-foot cedar strip canvas canoes. Every single day, they had a muskie come in and sit in the shade of the boathouse, which we know fish will do. They'll sit in the shade. All right. The muskie was half the length of the canoe.
God.
So not hard math to do.
No.
And every single day at 5 o'clock, it would breach off the point. They could sit there and go, about to breach, hon. Come on. My grandmother's name was Marge. Marge, it's going to breach. And they'd sit and they'd watch.
Jeez.
So I don't know. Legend, story, myth, grandfather stuff, but sounded cool to me.
Number 3 is, what is your favorite or best fishing memory?
So my grandfather's, no. You know what it is? It was, we were in the Magnetawan River.
Yeah.
And there's a lake up in there called Miners Lake, which is probably, I think it's fished out now. Back in the day, this early 70s, nobody went there. You had to kind of portage with your aluminum canoe and, six guys carrying it. It was a pain in the butt. But coming out of the meandering narrows, as we call it, the narrows. Once we get into the narrows are just the meandering creek at the end of the lake, very swampy and weedy. And but I kept trolling. I would troll through the narrows, and you're expecting to hook a weed. And I hooked a massive channel cat.
Oh, nice.
And I was a kid,
Yeah.
and when I caught it, So at the time, and for many, many years, that was the biggest fish I'd ever caught. It was huge.
Yeah.
If people aren't familiar with channel cats, I don't know, are they still around?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They
They're
are,
massive.
they're a surprising fish to catch, because you think catfish, you think everything else. Nobody ever thinks channel cats, but we would fish for the channel cat going through the channel.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite. I'll never forget that, because it vindicated me as a kid when all the adult men around you are catching fish and you're a kid and you're not doing so well. And you get teary because you didn't catch. This one kind of saved my psychology, sort of, somehow.
Totally.
As a fisherman.
That's a big, cool fish, man. Nothing wrong with catfish. Number 4 is, why do you fish? Why fish at all? What do you get out of it?
Oh, I'm going to say it was put in me as a kid. I know I started off earlier with a little bit of sob story about never having a mentor or guidance or anything like that in life, and that remains true. But my family's very dysfunctional growing up, and the only thing that I even had with my dad, not that we did it much together, was fishing, because his family, everybody fished. We went to Bracebridge, Ontario, everybody fished. It was the same thing, it was the 70s. You fish, you play horseshoes and drink beer, you barbecue hot dogs, you play cards and and drink something else at night. And then you rinse and repeat the next day. But of course, being a kid, you only really did the fishing and the horseshoe. So maybe some cards. So the fishing, it got in me as a kid. Then I was away from it, and then I had kids. And so I wrote an article recently about this. Here's the thing. Fishing is, and has always been, this one true activity that and this was for Father's Day, that a father and a child, boy or girl, can do, and for the most part, do on an equal level. I just finished a Father's Day fishing trip with my son, fishing for Chinook salmon and halibut off the coast of Alaska and Haida Gwaii. And you truly, as a father, if I'm fishing with you guys, I want you guys to do really well, but not as well as me, right? It's like,
competition.
Mitch caught a good one, but mine's a pound bigger. So that's the way it is, Mitch.
That's the way it goes.
You want, right? So you hope the best for your buddies, but in the end, you really want to.
Totally.
And if they have the bigger one, you really feel sorry for yourself. It's like,
Oh yeah.
But when a father fishes with their kids, it's the one time you truly, honestly want them to do better than you. Like my son landed what they call a tai, and which put him in the 30-pound and above mark. He got a 32-pound Chinook salmon. My biggest Chinook salmon to date is 25 pounds. Yeah. He blew me away, and boy, was his chest puffed up, and he knew it, and he doesn't forget to remind me about it. And I got to say, man, it's like, yeah, like I couldn't have wanted it to be any better than that, as he beat me. He beat his dad at fishing. Yeah. And I love that. So the father-children thing, my daughter as well, it's a connection that, well, no, you can do that in so many, not really. When my 16-year-old kid wants to play hockey with me, I'm going to kick his ass on the ice, or whatever physical pursuit you might do. You're going to kick your kid's ass until they're 20 anyway, right? Just 'cause it's the way it is, My son does MMA now, and hey, maybe he could kick my ass now. I'm not sure. If he's listening to this, he'll say, yeah. But so there's that. But fishing is a great equalizer. Yeah. You teach your kid the proper skill sets, which is something my dad did not do. Then they're on the same level as you. And my son proved it this last Father's Day.
So some nice fish. Jeez. Wow. I love that answer. It's amazing. It's Number five, the last of Mitchie's Fishies 5 is what fly pattern or fishing lure represents you best and why? So if you were a fly or a lure, what would you be?
Sorry, fly fisherman, but I have to go with lure only because that's 95% of my fishing experience. As I said, I'm a new fly fisherman, brand new and loving it. And I'm actually in many ways never looking back because, I've talked to many people who catch northern pike on fly fishing. I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, yeah.
You only ever think of brookies. You only ever think of trout. And then I'm saying, oh, shoot, we fish for northern pike all the time. That's all we use. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Like this. All right. So anyway, but that said, I am, it's the
northern pike. Just showing
me a picture of beautiful north. Oh no! Wait a minute. Sorry. Let me respond again. Yeah, that's a cute one.
Yeah.
So
right. Nicely done.
That was bait, right?
That was on a big streamer fly.
Now my son has not beat me in the northern pike realm, and I have to say, one time we were fishing, and it was one of those things where every fish he caught, I caught the next one, and it was bigger. Yeah. And that happens all day long. He's got his 2 pounds bigger, it's an inch longer. Next thing around, he's got a bigger one, and yours is bigger. No, I did that to him with northern pike one time. What was the question again?
Lure represents you. What
lure? The lure represents me. Well, I'm not going to try and be metaphorical, so I'll be just more nostalgic. I'm sorry, this is so boring. But man, I grew up, it's just what over and over again, the thing that caught the largemouth bass was my Mep spinner.
Yeah.
I had to say it. I don't know if you, by the way.
I thought you were going to say 5 of diamonds.
Well, no, I never had luck with the 5 of diamonds.
No one does.
I hated it.
No, it's the worst lure out there.
But the Mep spinner, and by the way, I wish I could tell the story like he did or even remember it, so I won't attempt to, but Terry O'Reilly on the Under the Influence podcast tells the story of the beginning of how MEPS happened.
Oh.
So find that one out. It's got to do with brands. It's one of his shows on branding. I think it was like Accidental Brands. It's called something like that. He was the MEPS guy was you know what set him off? It was something that it appeared on the cover of Life magazine.
Yeah.
Something about, the best lure out there, but it was with a picture of Marilyn Monroe in her peak. And that issue has sold more copies than any other issue in history. I think it was Life. Again, I'm paraphrasing this horribly. But if you go on Terry O'Reilly's Under the Influence, listen to his story of how the MEPS spinner came to be. I just brutalized the story. A few spoiler alerts there, but he just tells it brilliantly, and it's a wonderful story to listen to.
Yeah, it's a great podcast too. Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing, man. Well, thank you so much for those 5 questions. I think the last thing would be if you want to leave people with something to inspire them about Temagami, like if some parting words about Temagami. We talk about trying to get people inspired and get them out here, drive the 5 hours up here from Toronto or whatever to paddle again and explore the wilderness. What would you tell them?
Well, look, first of all, I often do like to point out that, you don't have to be Survivor Man. You don't have to go to Peru or even Temagami to get in touch with nature. You can get in touch with nature in the little creek underneath the QEW in behind Queen Elizabeth Hospital.
Yep.
That's where I used to go. When I was a cityite, that's where I went, or a cityite as we call it. But the point being that in nature, you become stronger, you heal faster, you are sharper witted, your mental faculties come into play. This is not New Ageism, this is science speaking right now. Science has shown that this is exactly what happens. Forget aromatherapy, stand in a forest and forest bathe and let 1 billion combinations of aromas bathe you and heal you and change you. Never mind the little bottle of the tincture, nothing that I have anything against that, it's fine, but you know what? You get into the forest. So you can do that in the city. That is correct. You can do it at your local park. I highly promote that. But when there are places on this planet that just scream out perfection, Temagami is in that list. It's one of them. And sadly, there aren't as many as there used to be, and many of them are under threat. So if you really want to, quote unquote, connect with nature and really and truly experience nature at that pristine with a capital P, imagery and feeling and ambiance. It's here. It's in Temagami. This is why I bought a cottage here and still come here. This is why when I want a canoe, other than the odd excursion trip, like I'm going to do the Mountain River next year, other than that, I come to Temagami. And it's not a place you can get tired of. And even if you don't want to believe the nature healing aspect, the funny part is it's not up to you. It's doing it to you whether you want it or not. Just being around these trees and the thing is, Temagami is a crossover region. Here's the thing that's really cool. You have the Northern Carolinian forest down in Toronto area. You have the Great Lakes forest that comes up here. But in Temagami, after Temagami, you have the boreal forest. So what is Temagami? Temagami is a Great Lakes forest, boreal forest crossover region, and so there are scenes of natural splendor and beauty and forest and trees that only exist in Temagami, Ontario. You go further north, you get up, Latchford, and it's gone. You go further south towards North Bay, it's gone. It's over. You go west, you go east, it's gone. It's over. Temagami is a place that it absolutely is one of a kind. The boreal forest you can experience in Siberia and all over and across Canada, and I love the boreal forest. But Temagami, this patch, large patch that we call Temagami, it's one of a kind. And that's what I would like to leave them with. So if you want to be healed by nature and experience nature, do it in a one-of-a-kind place, then go to Temagami.
Amazing.
Hear, hear.
And I don't even work for the tourism board. I should get a check for that.
If you need a job, Les.
I'll stand out front and wave people in. And
there's a spot for you at Temagami.
Absolutely.
So instead of like standing in front of the pizza parlor spinning the arrow, I'll have like a paddle attached to me. I'll be spinning the paddle this way for canoe tripping.
Exactly.
Hey, maybe that's what it'll take. I don't know. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Les.
My pleasure. I got to go do sound check for tonight's concert.
It was amazing. Absolutely. Thanks. And Eric, thanks so much for having us in the shop again.
Pleasure as always.
And thanks for letting me know how the fires were last year, so I knew where to go.
You didn't care.
Well, you know what? And I took newbies on that trip. Two people who'd never canoed before.
Well, that's how you introduce people to canoe tripping in Temagami.
Yep, absolutely.
Amazing.
Nice.
Well, thanks everybody at home for listening too. That's it for me, Mitch, Yilma.
Yeah, I'm out.
And take care.